Welcome back, everybody. My guest tonight served as ambassador to the United Nations and national security advisor during the Obama administration. Please welcome back to A Late Show, Ambassador Susan Rice.
It's great to be
Ambassador
with you,
Rice,
Stephen.
nice to have you here. Thanks so much for being here. Have you been watching the convention tonight?
I did. I watched the whole thing and I thought it was fantastic. I didn't know what to expect. I thought, this could be really kind of funky, but I thought it was really human and really moving. So I'm obviously not unbiased, but I thought it was great.
Well, how do you think they did bringing people together, given the fact that they can't actually be together?
Well, I thought they did that really well. I mean, first of all, the kids opening up with the national anthem was extraordinarily moving. And then, even with the kind of hokey thing where they had the people at home applauding for the speeches, even that was cool. So yeah, I thought the whole thing. I mean, it was an event for the times, a little bit weird, but I think it did the job.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was quite moved, and I thought it was nice of Bernie Sanders to comb his hair. It was a great gesture. Now, you were in the running to be Biden's vice presidential pick. Kamala Harris, of course, was announced last week. How do you think that affects your chances?
I think it reduces them to slim to none.
Okay. Now, you've been very supportive of Kamala Harris. What do you think that choice means for the Democratic Party?
Well, Stephen, I think it means, really something more importantly for the nation. It's the first time we've had an African American woman on a national ticket, daughter of immigrants, somebody with extraordinary qualifications, who is going to be a tremendous vice president of the United States. And I'm excited. I'm proud. It's historic. And I think it's going to be a great thing when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are together trying to put our country back together, unify us, and, bring out the best in us for a change.
Now, a lot of the speeches and a lot of the videos rolled in tonight were about what things are like, here at home in America. The Trump administration's failure to address the COVID crisis, the economic disaster that came in the wake of that, protests in the streets. Not a lot looking outward toward the rest of the world. As a former UN ambassador and former national security advisor, what's at stake for the U.S. role in the world with a second Trump term versus a Biden presidency?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that, Stephen, because I think people may not fully appreciate just how much we have lost in terms of our national security and our standing in the world over the last 4 years. Our allies don't know what to make of us. We're not leading them with confidence based on principle and shared values. We're lying from the White House. The President of the United States is a liar and the whole world knows it. We're incompetent. We're supposed to be the most scientifically advanced country in the world, and we have been at the bottom of the heap in dealing with the pandemic. The president praises Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un and thinks Xi Jinping, the leader of China, is, the great leader to be emulated. It's just nuts. Everything is upside down. And I'm deeply, deeply concerned that if we had 4 more years of this, we would not be an America that anybody can recognize. The situation would be unsalvageable. Our national security and our standing in the world irreparably damaged. It's really a life or death situation we're in. It's not too extreme a statement to make, both domestically and internationally.
As a former ambassador, can you speak to the importance of America's soft power and our moral example around the world, and the example of being able to point at free and fair elections in the United States?
Well, we profess to believe in the dignity and the equality and the humanity of every human being. We profess to believe in freedom of the press and free speech and democracy and fair elections. And we are modeling all the opposite straight out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And it appears to the world to be utterly hypocritical. And when we look to a place like Belarus, for example, where the people are finally standing up against, decades of dictatorship, the White House is silent, and our example is not one that is inspiring in the way it once was. We've got to change that, because when countries don't and peoples don't trust us, don't admire us, don't want to study here, don't want to emigrate here, it means our ability to bring countries together in causes that serve our interests, whether it's fighting terrorism or fighting a pandemic or dealing with climate change, is far diminished. We can't lead if others don't want to follow us. And that's the risk that we face with 4 more years of Donald Trump.
Who benefits most from a second term of Donald Trump internationally?
Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping.
Okay, that's chilling. Okay, in 2017, let's talk about some of the things that are happening here at home. In 2017, where you were national security advisor at the time, I believe, you gave this quote to the Washington Post. You said, "One thing I think few people will think about, but truthfully keeps me up at night, the risk of a major pandemic disease outbreak." That kept you up in 2017. How are you sleeping these days?
Not very well, Stephen. Look, I said that when this was one of my last days in the White House, right before we handed over to the Trump administration. I was meeting with a group of reporters, and they asked me, what do you worry about most that other Americans may not be focused on? And I said the threat of a global pandemic, because I have known, and many experts in national security and global health and development have known, that this was inevitable. The only thing we didn't know precisely was when it would hit and what type of disease it would be. So this is about as bad as it could get, bar one scenario, Stephen, which is if this were like an avian flu that was even more deadly. Some of these avian flu viruses are just as transmissible as COVID, but they can kill 50 or more % of the people who contract it. So this is bad. It's really bad, but it could be worse. And the lack of preparedness on the part of this administration and the bungling of this every step of the way, I think willful bungling in some regards, is killing Americans. Over 170,000 already dead and counting.
Well, after working on the U.S. response to Ebola, you oversaw something called the Pandemic Preparedness Office, which President Stable Genius disbanded. And then when this hit, said no one could have seen this coming. How do you feel when you hear him say no one could have seen this coming when you personally worked on preparing for this?
It makes my head want to explode. The President of the United States got up in front of the American people on March 19th of this year and said nobody could have seen this coming. Who could have predicted? Well, George W. Bush's administration predicted. The Joe Biden administration predicted. We all knew it was coming. And they not only disbanded the office that I set up in the National Security Council, they not only discarded the pandemic playbook we handed them and all the lessons of the tabletop exercises that we conducted during the transition. They then denied the severity of it. Donald Trump compared it to the flu, said it would miraculously go away when the weather warmed up. And every step of the way, from testing to setting up a sufficient capacity in our hospitals, to acquiring ventilators and PPE, to reopening prematurely, to telling our kids and our teachers to go back to school when it's unsafe, he has put his personal political interests ahead of the health and the security and the economy of the United States. And we're paying a deadly, deadly price.
Well, we have to take a quick break. Please don't go anywhere, anyone, because when we come back, we'll talk about Russian interference in the 2020 election, and we'll talk about the post office and Donald Trump's attempt to undermine what should be a very easy, free, and fair election. Stick around, everybody.